Thank you for the opportunity. It's really good. This is my first doctors conference, ophthalmologist conference, and being a non-doctor among so many doctors is a privilege. Thank you for the organizers, Dr. Sethi and everyone. So, and it's a very interesting topic. I think I interact with a lot of doctors as a consultant whenever they are thinking of designing a hospital. So I do have a lot of doctor friends. There are a lot of things which, as an architect, I would expect if they had known and if they are able to tell us exactly what they want, it would make the process of design a much easier and much more fruitful effort. So here what I'm going to try and say is just a kind of an introduction of how one can approach and how, when you are doing, how it would help you when you are building a hospital, modifying a hospital. You don't have to do things over and over again. If you do your part, if you do try to understand how an architect's capability is actually very limited in this context. But if you give him sufficient information, then they could respond to your needs and come up with a building which is efficient for you. This is a quote from Hardy and Lama. A functional design can promote skill, economy, conveniences, and comforts. A non-functional design can impede activities of all types, detract from quality care, and raise costs to intolerable levels. Many buildings, not only hospitals, because they have not responded to the functional needs, they may be pretty, but they are not good. In India, first, fundamentally, our design of hospitals are governed by the three major documents: the National Building Code, the Clinical Establishments Act, and some guidelines from NABH. So the Clinical Establishments Act actually defines what is a clinic, what is a polyclinic, and what is a hospital. And an eye care facility would fall under either a clinic, that is a single doctor run eye care facility where there is diagnostic but there is no surgery and there is no overnight patients. Then a hospital. Basically these are the two major categories into which our hospital can fall. Now we are also talking about daycare facilities. No one still has come to me asking to design a daycare facility, but the way technology and everything is moving, I think soon most eye care facilities would be daycare. And there may be less and less of clinics. How big should we go? What should be our hospital like? The doctors with whom I have come across, everyone is interested in building a hospital, of course. And they all have grand plans. But how big should I really go for? Of course, the first thing is, what is the patient load I am expecting? So that may depend on the area which you are trying to serve. And what are the other service providers in your area? What other hospitals are existing? Are there any private practitioners? Over and above all that, another thing which determines, there may be enough patient load, there may not be sufficient competition, but how much finance I have, do I have the land to build the facility, and can I manage sufficient human people? Can I bring enough people to run the hospital? Many times I find doctors think of a hospital, when they are planning a hospital, only think of them as a resource. But when you are building a hospital, just one person as a resource person, I think it should not be. You have to think, maybe you are the owner, but you have to think of hiring another doctor, sharing your practice, so many other ways. Because running a hospital is a big investment, and it is a 24-hour facility. One person cannot be, in no way can actually manage a facility 24 hours. So you build, you invest how much manpower you have, how much you can generate, how much you can hire, is it available, are people willing to come, do you have the finances to do that? And today I'm going to talk a little bit more on land, because finance and manpower you understand quite well yourselves. But the land required for hospitals. Before I go into explaining about the land, a balance has to be struck when you are planning your design hospital. Everything is interconnected. How many outpatients you are going to see depends on what facility you are going to build. And depending on how many outpatients you are going to see, how many surgeries you can perform. To perform the surgeries, again, need so many operation theaters. So everything is interconnected. You can't go by one parameter. You have to understand the whole package of the infrastructure when you are designing your hospital. There are norms. In every state has its own town planning bylaws or development control rules by which a building is governed, which definitely applies to a hospital building. Of course, in our country, most often construction is violation is the norm than following the norms is the norm, which is very unfortunate. But don't start with a violation. At least when you're starting, plan to do things within the norms. If you are pushed, if you are stretched later on, maybe if you can't avoid, I'm not saying violate, but at least think of that. But unfortunately, many times when we talk to people, they always ask, see, he has violated, she has violated, they are built so high, why I can't do that? We cannot start there. That's not the place to start. We should be within norms. So better to get to know what norms govern your development. The zone in which the plot falls, the area of the plot, the width of the road in which your plot is situated, the road frontage you have, FSI, that is flow space index, it varies from place to place, even within one city. Setbacks, there are rules and regulations for setbacks. What is the height permitted? There is something called OSR. So that is a certain part of the land in a large project has to be, it's actually around 10%, has to be handed over back to the government. So you may have 100, 10 is not yours straight away. But if you don't take that into account, you are going to get into problem. And a lot of projects get into problem of fulfilling parking requirements. I don't know whether you are able to see. Just to demonstrate this facts, I'm going to show 3 slides. 1,000 square meter plot, as per Tamil Nadu development control rules. 1,000 square meters is approximately 10,000 square feet. So I have taken a nice rectangular plot, which is 40 by 25 meters. If the plot area is 1,000 square meters, the FSI, that is the maximum buildable area, when you consider a FSI of 1.5 is 1,500 square meters. Yes. Just 2 more slides and I'll close. There is a building height limitation, so you can build maximum 15 meters, which means stilt. Stilt is meant for parking plus 3 floors. And there is a coverage limitation. Only you can cover only 60% of the plot. So your coverage after the setbacks, fortunately here it is within 60%. So what super built up, what we call the total what you can build in this plot, stilt plus whatever is permissible by the FSI is 2,080 square meters. Now a ramp is compulsory in a hospital today as per our bylaws. A ramp per for one floor, if you follow all the norms, is not less than 150 square meters. So if you are building 4 floors, that is 600 square meters occupied just by the ramp alone. You are building 2080 square meters, 600 square meters is ramp. The stilt floor is parking, so you can't do any of your clinical activity there. So you remove the ramp, you remove the stilt floor which is meant for parking, you got just 900 square meters. So you bought a 1,000 square meter plot, you built 2,080 square meters. How much of hospital area finally you end up? 900 square meters. This is a very, very big problem, especially when a single practitioner comes to us for a design. The plot size is generally this. And it's a very big struggle to explain to them why their plot is insufficient for what they are thinking. Because they have maybe heard of FSI, so they say 1,000, I can build 1,500. And they also quickly factor in a violation. So, okay, I can manage 2,000. But when we do all the calculation, we end up with just 900 square meters, which can be built. So, when you are planning for your hospital, be careful what size of land you buy. Because if the land is not proper, right in the beginning, you're starting on the wrong foot. I have now taken a 2,500 square meter plot. Here you can go for what is called a multi-story. That is more than 15 meters you can go if your frontage is more than 25 meters. If your road frontage, if it is more than 25 meters, then you can go for a multi-story building. This yields a little better. That was yielding 1,000 square meter plot was yielding 900. Here, a 2,500 square meter plot would yield 4,425 square meters. If it's a nice rectangular plot and you follow all the norms, you still have a little less than double your ground area to build your hospital. If you go bigger, this gets better when your plot size is 5,000 square meters. So with a 5,000 square meter plot, you will yield 9,550 square meters. So I have some more slides. I don't know whether we have time. Okay. But basically, one single aspect I have tried to show, if we are not careful, where we can land up. Just one single aspect. People have invested a lot of money in buying a plot because the road frontage was not sufficient. We have to turn them back saying, sorry, we can't design a hospital for you in that site. And it's very difficult for after you have invested your money in buying the plot to be told you can't build a hospital there. The rest is more about some general guidelines, thoughts that you should have when you are doing hospital. If it's a larger hospital, in addition to what you need for a hospital, you need to think of transformer yards for electrical panel rooms, space for air conditioning plant, firefighting system, a lot of infrastructure. It's not just your clinical space, your treatment space. You need other supports areas which occupy significant part of your building. Now coming to efficiency and cost effectiveness. An efficient hospital layout. Efficiency comes when all the functions are properly understood and taken care of in the building design. If we do not understand all the functions clearly, as architects, we can't give you an efficient building. So efficiency is the time of the medical practitioner. If he is going to be spending time walking from one end of the hospital, many of the old hospitals where you may have been trained, you would have seen long corridors. How we can avoid that? If you have a good understanding, and if you give a good understanding of your needs very clearly, spend as much time as possible explaining to your architect what is your need, then they may be able to help you to resolve and give you a better plan. The medical technology, doctor was saying, 5 years. It's changing every day. We have been designing for Aravind from, I think, from 90 onwards. Every hospital, we have a new discussion. See, we have just completed the Chennai hospital. Now we are working on Tirupati. We have a discussion. We are going to do one more hospital. We have a discussion. It has even come to a point, we have done a hospital. It has been sent for approval. Unfortunately, in our country, sometimes the approvals take a lot of time. Finally, we get the approval. Before we start the construction, again we look at it, because things are changing. Things are changing so rapidly. So when you are building it as current as possible, and give as much room for change as possible. Modular is one way to go. We have standardized certain rooms and all that. So a patient room and examination room will be either double or 1.5 times of one of the other. If it's a theater, we have worked out certain modules based on our experience. And that also keeps changing. But if you can plan in some level of modularity into your plan, then there is better flexibility and you will be well served in future. And another very important thing is a hospital is actually for a patient. I'm saying actually for a patient. Why? Because I'm talking about doctors, so I want to underline that. Many times hospitals are planned for doctors. We forget the ultimate user of the facility. The doctor is the facilitator. Ultimate user is the patient. So if we do not think of patients' conveniences, how they feel, how it actually affects your practice, how efficient you are, how you are perceived. Everything is affected because you have not given sufficient thought to what a patient may want. It could be simple things. Just a small example, a metal chair in an air-conditioned room. It's very cold. Maybe it's easier for us to maintain a stainless steel chair. It won't break. From our side, we have reason why we want to put a metal chair. But from a patient's side, is it the right thing? So there are a lot of things which you have to think of, small things, big things. Cleanliness maintenance. Say a building, a hospital building is not just a one-time effort. It's a continuing effort. Every day you have to clean it. Every day you have to maintain it. So if you are able to think of all these things as much as possible, give sufficient thought for that, it will make it easier for you in the long run. I find natural stone of good quality is an ideal material, and we use it extensively. Kota, granite, and of course accessibility. We are talking about aging, and hospital is anyway for people who have some issues. So here you can see a ramp on the side. There is a place for somebody to sit. These photographs are from Aravind, Chennai. Then hospital is a complex facility. There are so many functions happening. You have to segregate the functions so that the patient is not unnecessarily exposed or taken into areas where he need not go. Security has now become a major concern, which we wouldn't have thought of. A CCTV in a hospital, now it's compulsory. Sustainability. Hospital are resource guzzlers. There's a lot of air conditioning, so you are using a lot of power. You are using chemicals. You are consuming a lot of water. So think of sustainability. Can you, what you choose from your cleaning agent to everything, and whether you can recirculate wastewater, can be treated, waste can be segregated. So this is very important. You can build in a certain degree of sustainability into your projects. I don't know whether it's clear. There is a small glass tube like that in the front that is part of, it's a kind of a landscape element, but at the same time it is actually a part of the wastewater treatment. Yeah. So if we, whenever you are building a hospital, spend enough time. Even before you buy the land, think of what you are going to do, what you need, plan it out very clearly, give a clear guidance to your architect, then you can have a good hospital, which you will find it very easy to run, and the patients will be happy to come there. Thank you.